I'm not good with excuses at all. I hate them. No is not an option. And you really don't care. If someone asks you a question and you say you don't know, that means you don't care. That's what I think. You can find the answer. We're here to, there's so many people who can give you the answer. Say, let me get back to you.
Welcome to the Path to Passive podcast, where we talk about building wealth and empowering lifestyle through commercial real estate investing for tech professionals. I always wish that other tech professionals reaching financial freedom had documented their journey along the way, so I'm doing it for the rest of us. Join us as we explore stories, many failures, and lessons learned along the way. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. I don't see what's there, I see what's possible. That's how Debbi DiMaggio approaches every home she touches, not just as a transaction, but as a transformation. Debbi is a top 1% real estate advisor, coach, and co-lead of the nationally ranked DiMaggio Beta Group. With over 35 years of Bay Area experience, she's built her career on helping clients and agents succeed through education, clarity, and heart-led service. In this episode, we're not breaking down spreadsheets or cap rates, but we're digging into something just as critical: the psychology behind how people buy, sell, and assign value in real estate. What I really like here is how Debbi builds everything around the buyer's lens, helping sellers anticipate what people actually want and tailoring their experience to meet those expectations with intention. In this episode, you'll learn about what buyers actually respond to and what turns them off, how sellers can prep early and strategically to unlock equity, avoid friction, and command top dollar, and why the best outcomes come from tailoring the home to match what today's buyers actually want. This conversation is a masterclass in buyer and seller psychology and a reminder that great investors don't just study markets, they understand people. If you find this valuable, share it with someone who's thinking about real estate or leveling up in their strategy. And if you want more like this, subscribe to Arita Capital's newsletter. Every 2 weeks, we send investing frameworks, guest insights, and strategic breakdowns. Be sure to follow Path to Passive for more expert conversations, and follow Debbi if you want to keep learning from one of the best in the business. Please enjoy the episode and take notes. Debbi DiMaggio, thank you so much for being on the show. Pleasure to have you here. Great to catch up with you a little bit before we're hitting record and just getting going for the day. But I'm excited to have you on today. As I was telling you, the things that really caught my eye to get you here to talk about to our listeners and everyone here is to talk a bit about your sweet spot here, which is luxury real estate. And, I get questions often from the people I work with, the investors that I work with, of like, should I what should I invest in first? What should I buy? All that kind of stuff. And there's really some questions that I'm not the best person to answer. Things such as the distinctions of these different, really, I don't know, how would you describe it? Classes of real estate, almost like in a single family world of luxury real estate, et cetera. So we're going to dive into those things. And so I'm really excited to talk to you, but tell me about your background, how you would introduce yourself, and we'll dive in.
Sure. So my name is Debbi DiMaggio, third cousins to Joe DiMaggio. Just sometimes people get my name, misspell my name or mispronounce it. So if I say Joe DiMaggio, they get it. I have been in real estate for 35 years, although I really say since I was born, because my father was in real estate. And when I was growing up and when I was in college and people, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I don't know what I want to do. The only thing I do not want to do is real estate. My dad was in real estate. And now looking back, as I say this so many times, now looking back, he was tied to a phone. He was tied to a wall. Office. We didn't have all the technology we have today, so we can literally work from anywhere. I grab my mic, I grab my laptop. I could literally go live from anywhere. In real estate, with DocuSign and text message and email and social media. I mean, we could do everything. So he was tied to a phone, and that's where that came in. He was tied to a phone. He was never able to plan things because in real estate, you never know what's going to happen at any given time. So you always have to learn to pivot and adjust. And that is actually a little passage in my newest book, my fifth book coming up, Mindset in Motion. Right. So I ended up I went to Cal Berkeley, and after I graduated from Cal, I'm like, there should be some great magical job dropping from the sky that it'll like engage me and it'll be the perfect job. Well, it didn't happen. So I was 25 and I was frustrated. I'd gotten my license, but I wasn't I was living in LA and I wasn't from LA, so it wasn't really a place I wanted to start. And I worked at Centinela Hospital in marketing. I worked for magazines, but nothing really held my attention. And so I wrote down when I was 25 in my little black calendar day timer, those little leather day timers for people who might remember those. And I said, I just wrote down what I like. I love helping others. That was number one. I love meeting people. I love hearing their stories. I love meeting people with different backgrounds from different cultures. And I wanted something that had a beginning, a middle, and an end. I needed closure. I couldn't have something like, wouldn't be good for me. It would be commercial real estate. It could go years before you have a closing. So, and I didn't know this was real estate at all. I just said what I liked. And I wanted to have homework. I wanted to be able that the job wasn't a 9 to 5 with, doing some task and that was it. I wanted to be purposeful. That was part of my life. I wanted it to be, before the word lifestyle was a thing, I wanted it to be part of my life. So not long after, a couple years, I moved to San Francisco. I was engaged in LA, didn't want to get married, moved to San Francisco. And then I started dating someone else who's my husband now of 35 years. And his friend said, Debbi would be really great in rentals. And this was before Craigslist, the internet, text messaging, which is so hard to believe. And people were coming into the city in droves. Everyone used to be relocating here at one time. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. Everyone was coming to the city, all DFS, Bank of America, everyone was coming. And so I was connected with a relocation company and we helped them find rentals. And those rentals, even back then, were not inexpensive. So did that for a long time. And then my husband and I started a rental department in San Francisco. And then when we moved to the East Bay to start a family, we got into selling. And those connections came from a relocation company and then just continued on for 35 years. And here we are today. And I can't imagine doing anything else and I'll never retire.
Well, yeah. I mean, all off the top of your head here, right? That's cool. So you actually started doing finding apartments for companies. What is this, like corporate type of apartments? Okay.
Well, no, they weren't. There was a very big company in San Francisco who did have corporate apartments, but no, we would reach out to, it was like we had the landlord or the property manager, and then we would have the tenant that would come through, usually a relocation or individuals. And the commission was paid by the property management company or the owner. So we would literally call on the phone and we'd, a lot of times I remember the Pellegrinis had multiple buildings. So that was like to have a listing from the Pellegrinis were like, 20 listings every month because they always had something turning over. So we would match the two and the seller, or not the seller, but the landlord would pay our commission. The tenant did not pay the commission. But the relo companies were a lot of times having people come in. And then we got into a niche so we had like a piece of paper, and it had the handwritten contact number of the manager to make the appointments. And we had a little book. Anyway, and it was fast and I loved it. And I loved the beginning, the middle, and the end, and drafting the lease and being, and then going on to the next and meeting people from all over the place. And then we fell into the movie industry. So when Hollywood comes up to San Francisco or goes to Texas or wherever they go, they start a production company with, which I didn't know at the time, within that city. So we got in a loop, and this is funny. So Chris Columbus, who and Mark Radcliffe, director and producer of Mrs. Doubtfire, they went on to do Harry Potter. So I knew them long before Harry Potter and long before those books were even written. And then Julianne Moore and Macaulay Culkin and Ted Danson and Sally Field and Tom Arnold and Julianne Moore and a bunch of people that we rented to and were very nice. And it was fun meeting people to hear their story. Like I remember talking to Joan Cusack, and I was always curious how people got into it and where they came from because I was from here. I just remember sitting in the car with Joan Cusack, and she had her legs up on my dashboard and totally casual, like you would see her. And what got you into acting? What she's like, and another an actress, Linda Ferrantino, came from working class families, needed to make money. And both the Fiorentinos and Cusacks came from big working class families. And it was just, sometimes it was, well, you hear this a lot with celebrities too. It was their way out. And so it was fascinating. We had Sting's manager, and I think that was Ted Danson's manager. We took around. Anyway, that was like calling people in San Francisco and saying, would you want to rent your house for a couple months? We have so-and-so coming in. But a lot of times they wouldn't want to rent to celebrities because they didn't know if they were going to take care of their home. But that's a whole other story. But anyway.
All good. So these were longer term rentals to start.
The people we were renting the unfurnished were a year lease and sometimes longer. The movie people were 3 to 6 months, depending on how long the shoot was. And it was usually 3 to 6 months.
So how did you go? You talked about moving to the East Bay and then starting up and where you were doing transactions at that point. So originally doing the tenant placements. Tenant placement locations. And then moving into actually doing your own realty to do transactions, buying and selling. Where did you start off with? Was it, you didn't dive directly into luxury real estate, did you?
No. So started in rentals, and, rentals were not cheap. So we made a really good living on rentals because they were, people aren't committed to them forever. So, or even, years. So then we were lucky at the time because we were working with this relocation company. So when we moved over 20 minutes from San Francisco to the Piedmont area in the East Bay, they had a lot of people who were looking to buy. So then that's how we got into it. So, back 30 years ago, a house was $250 to $550, and now the same house is $1.5 to $2.5.
Sure.
So it's just, as the years go by, prices here in California just go crazy, especially in Northern California. So started, it's just the area we work is expensive. So you kind of just start getting, the prices are higher. So you just kind of, it's like me, I feel like they're high maybe to people in different parts of the country. But when I'm at a conference and I'm sitting there with people from New York, I'm like, oh my God, like
Absolutely.
5 million, 10 million is a normal price point, so, and here, 2.5 is a good price, good, but yeah, it's wherever you live. It's very whatever. Luxury is different. It's relative.
So that's kind of lead in, right? It's luxury is different. And I mean, even though there might be higher price points, like I can think about, the decade I lived in Seattle, and there were certain houses that were like $1 million. And I'm like, that is the cost of the dirt. That is the cost of location. That is not a luxury house. So can you help me and help the listeners understand, like, what does being luxury real estate even mean then?
So, we did create a tagline because we were having problems with people. When you have a website, you want it, or you portray, no one wants to look at an ugly website. So we do sell homes that aren't luxury, let's say. So we came up with a tag saying luxury is a service, not a price point, because we give everyone luxury service. And that's, we also are really close to our service providers, our plumbers and our electricians and everything, because they help us do our job. And so luxury, that's hard, luxury, I guess when people say the luxury market in our area, that's probably 2.5 on up. Sometimes a $2 million house is nice because it still needs work. I mean, most of our houses here are 1920s, 30s, and 50s, so they all need some work. And that's where we shine, is helping. Like today, I was meeting with a potential seller. She's going to sell in 5 years. And I always tell people, call me before you're ready to sell, because then I can give you pointers now. You can enjoy your house before you sell. I always take a home and fix it up. And they never live there that way where they could have. But there's just little things. And it's not a lot, but the transformation is huge on the things that we do to our houses.
Okay. So tell me about, in this case, maybe this seller or maybe another one, right? Because the question I still want to get like a box around for the listener to get some more definition is, I hear what you're saying. Luxury is, how did you put it?
Luxury is a service, not a price point.
And I can definitely understand that, especially as you're talking about how technology has changed over time, but even the way you've gone to restaurants and the way that you have done things. It's not just the food and the quality of food, but now it's the ambiance and now it's the service, right? But it's very hard to be like, yes, here is what the house can do for you. The house provides this service to you, right? It's price point, but it's also like some of the features that comes with it too. Would you agree with that, or other things you would think of there?
Yeah. Well, when we're selling houses, I guess when I think of luxury, you're really at a really high. If you want to go what luxury is, that could be your house has all kinds of bells and whistles, and you might have a bowling alley and a tennis court and, an outdoor barbecue and a spa. I mean, but we don't have that here. So luxury is relative, right? That's not what we have here. But yeah, luxury could mean a lot of things. I mean, there's, I'd want, an underground media room that's, could be closed off for a bunker. I mean, you're like, I don't know. It's like a movie theater. I mean, a movie theater. Yeah. It's like, So that's kind of hard, but
some examples of it would be at least two things that you would, that wouldn't be things you would find in maybe the average types of houses, like like you said, more bells and whistles. Is that at least like a rough guideline?
Yeah. I would say, that as technology evolves, houses or people will start to add, like someone will buy a house for 5-6 million and then they'll put another couple million into it. So at that point, I'm not selling. They're buying that house and they're over improving their house. There was a house we called this is now old. It was called the $28 million house because they bought the house for, $5 million and they, put another, they put 20 million into this house. It's not worth that. Definitely. But so that's very different. But I would say in our area, luxury is kitchens and bathrooms that are remodeled. The high tech is so, it changes so much. It's like, you don't even have an alarm in your house anymore because people have it on their phone and all kinds of things. So, so that's kind of hard here because it's not like we don't have the land for, yes, there are pools and tennis courts, but not a lot. And that's pretty basic for a luxury house. Okay.
Yeah. So things, it'll be local, but it'll also be a step above what most things in that area have is a rough saying.
And it's quality. I mean, the finishes are nice. The kitchens, the bathrooms are nice. The gardens, nicely landscaped. It's just the quality is nice.
Cool. So let's talk about two different things here as well. You work with buyers, sellers, and investors here and there too. And you've also been starting some of that on your own as well. We may get into. But you had brought up about how, someone was saying just recently that you were talking about how they're looking to sell their house, but maybe in 5 years. Right. So, this is kind of, I want to look at both sides of the coin here, right? Maybe the types of sellers that you work with and types of buyers that you work with.
Sure.
So let's start with that seller then.
Yeah. So a lot of time, I mean, we've done this for so long, so it's so easy. When I walk into a house, when I'm working with the seller, someone invites me into their house. First, I say, they'll say, "Oh, it's not ready. It's not, it's messy or whatever." I said, "You don't have to worry. I walk into a house. I don't see what's there. I see what I can do to your house. I don't pay attention to anything else. I walk in, and so I also let them know I'm going to walk in." Not as a guest. If I walk in as a guest, I'm not going to scrutinize your house. If I walk in from the outside of your front path to your door into your house as the realtor you've asked me to be and invited me into your house, I look very differently. I start on the outside and windows need to be washed. The paint's chipping on the outside. Yeah, the house probably needs painting. There's some chipping. We want to change the color. I like to use a taupe that matches the garden. It shows off very nicely. I'll look at the hardwood floors when I come in. Of course, I'm chatting with the client, getting to know them first. Yep. So like today, I went in and she's had very specific questions. I said, great. So I also had to explain who is the profile of the buyer. It's very important to know who your profile is wherever you're selling in the United States. Who are they? Single people, couples? Are they young families? Are they retirees? So in Piedmont, they're typically someone who's going to be there in their 30s or 40s. They don't want grandma's silverware. They don't want the antiques. They don't want anything. I said, all you need to picture, I used to say two things, West Elm and Restoration Hardware. Now I just say Restoration Hardware. Everyone wants it to look like Restoration Hardware. How long has the same palette been going on now? For years. How successful is Restoration Hardware? I mean, they have restaurants now, and they have, I mean, people gather there. In West Hollywood, they have a garden on top where you can, sit and sit and lounge and work. So I'm not selling. You're not designing the house for you to stay. And then I use myself as an example. I said, I wouldn't put my house on the market the way it is right now because it's all pink and white. And I could not put my house on the market that way. So I'm not saying anything about your taste. I'm just saying we're going to market. This is our profile, 30 to 40, someone who's coming here. They're going to start a family. There's school, we have schools, good schools. And so it's going to be that profile. So the entire house has to be white dove. And the ceilings aren't different than the walls. White dove, it brightens a house. Everyone wants a light and bright house. She had specific questions about the fireplace, and then she had some sample tiles. And I said, no, not those colors. Now remember, in 5 years, you're going to sell it. You're telling me you're going to sell it. I'm not here as a designer for you. I'm here to make sure you get top dollar. That's your goal. So then we went through some tile samples. She got it. And then she said, what about the other two fireplaces? Keep it the same. The kitchen, I said, again, white dove, white cabinets. Your cabinets are fine. They're really good. So no need to change the cabinets. Just paint them. Some new knobs. Right now I'm using the gold, and light fixtures throughout. So, and then in the kitchen, she's like, well, I don't know if I can live there for 5 years. Can we do a gray countertop? And I said, absolutely not. I said, I'm emphatic because this is what I do. And these are, I sit with buyers and neighbors coming through the houses, and when we put a product together like that, they love it. And it's a very simple formula. And so not gray. What about brown? I said, oh, I hate brown. So she's like, I don't know if I can live like that for 5 years. And I said, all right. But I was very specific with her, and I think she learned a lot, and she gets it. And now and I told her I'd be happy to come back and give her more pointers. And I know she's not selling for a while, but I always tell people, come see me before you're ready to sell so you can enjoy your house while you're living there.
Yeah. And I mean, forecasting that out like 5 years, I mean, there's some things that aren't going to change. Like you're talking about having, I think you called it white dove in the color. I'm a total, I don't understand. I have the primary colors. Okay. So but
you're not selling your house. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's your house. That has nothing to do with selling.
Totally. But understanding and keeping that conversation going with the sellers on what they can do over time that makes it, sell ready, but also enjoyable for them at that moment. But also, it seems like there's that education component for the seller too, to understand and almost have that come to realization moment with that education you're providing them to like, if we want to do this, this is what we need to do. This is what you need to expect. Right.
Right. Absolutely. And then even though she was like, oh, white, I have to do white in the counters. I don't know if I can live like that. And her kitchen wasn't very big. So, what she has amazing detail throughout her whole house. It's not a flat wall. She's got tons of, I've never seen a house with so much detail, just the details around the windows. So he said, you already have so much going on with your windows and all of your moldings and everything. So it's not going to be, but remember when so I showed her 1048annerly.com. I said, if you can go on 1048annerly.com. I said, let me show you this house. I showed it to her, everything I said, white dove, had some nice wood details in the ceiling. The kitchen was white. She's like, oh, this looks nice. But she was kind of she would not argue. And she was just saying, God, I don't know if I can live with white. And then she saw the photos and I'm like, so anyone can imagine themselves living there. And then they can put in their pink or their red or their blue or whatever colors. Let them do that. But if you have a red tile, she's like, not the red tile on the fireplace. I go, if you put in the red tile, these people are tied. Your buyers, you got to find buyers who are going to buy into that color, or they're going to think, okay, now I have to spend money to replace it or paint it because I don't like it. So why don't you give them a blank slate so they can do their own thing?
Do you end up finding that there are things that have been like custom done, if in the house that you guys have to remove so that it becomes less specific or less niche so that it is to a broader range of buyers? Or is the idea to, if there is something that makes the home unique, then do you say this home would be perfect for this kind of buyer? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's hard. That's like, fishing and trying to fish for the right person when, prices are high here. So our goal is to get as many people as eyes on the property who like it. But what I feel so I was explaining to her because she was saying, but I said, I understand that your heath tile is very expensive and I know it's quality and it's nice. But this makes me sick, even though it's not my style, the heath tile. I don't like the darker colors, but I said, we had a house that we sold. The sellers redid their bathroom and kitchen with all heath tile, very expensive. That house has been under renovation for 2 years. And believe me, that heath tile is gone. I hope they salvaged it, but they're in their 30s, 40s, and they didn't want that. So you're going to put it up for a couple years and then someone's going to take it out. And I always think of it's also wasteful too. And it's sad that it just, but if you're going to sell your house, you have to look at it with a different mindset, in different eyes. Yeah. And we got to joke around, but sometimes a seller would be like, that light fixture is way more than the one you want to put in. And I said, well, I know, but then you can take it with you. But we're appealing to the younger buyer and they don't get that. It's pulling teeth sometime. People come around and then when they see their house at the end, they're like, oh, wow. And most of the time it was paint and light fixtures and knobs and pulls and sometimes floors, sometimes carpet. We try to do all hardwood if possible, but I always prepare a list of my wish list and then the seller has to decide what they want to do, but I'll give them the whole list and then we'll cut back as needed. That makes sense. That does make sense. One of the things I think sometimes is, well, you tell me, what do you end up finding that, higher priced homes? Okay, I'll cut to the direct question. The direct question is, are your sellers just as emotionally attached as to their homes as other, as just emotionally attached to their homes? And the context for the question is that higher priced homes, maybe it's more of just, hey, this is just a house, right? That, that we are going to trade eventually. Like, yes, we have more money, as an example, but it's, care less about things as an example. Well, I'll give you a pretty vivid example. So, and just sticks in my mind because, this was a higher end home in $5 million, $6 million home. And it was very personal to these people. There were chandeliers and it was very traditional, almost very Southern, I'd say. Very different than here and very conservative. And there was wallpaper, and this was recent, wallpaper that were slaves. And I'm like, that is, and they loved them at it was expensive. Wallpaper is expensive. And I'm like, that kind of has to go. It's like, and it took them a couple rounds. But in the end, the whole house ended up being painted white dove. But I understand it's your personal, but it's not someone else's personal taste. So yes, people at all price, most people do get it. I don't know. There's people do get it. And they're like, I know you know what you're doing. Just do Debbi. People want Debbi to do what Debbi does, and they get it. And usually people always come around, because if they see houses that are on the market and they're like, this is what people are looking at. And if they see dark or dingy or curtains, like the first thing goes is all the drapes and curtains. Just you want windows and light and bright, and you want to see that whole window.
Open light patterns, space.
Yeah. And hopefully no patterns.
Yeah. I mean, open space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's people are people no matter what the price point is. And the context for the question is, like I told you before we even started rolling, is, this is usually a podcast for, people to learn about commercial real estate, private equity, different commercial asset classes, and so forth. Mm-hmm. I wanted to talk to you about, luxury real estate and these definitions and things we're talking about right now. But when it comes to things like commercial real estate, it's commercial. Investors are expecting a return. Like the emotional side of it, yes, we always make decisions emotionally. I understand. But we're also looking for return, and we're looking for trust. Right. And so that's why I asked that.
Yeah. Residential is all emotion. You try to, why hasn't anyone made an offer on that house? It's like someone's going to walk in that door, they're going to connect or they're not. And sometimes they don't even know why. They're just, not for me, out. I don't need them to tell me what they liked or didn't like or what hit them. The right house will come. But if an agent who's a listing agent, they want feedback, it's, we like to know but usually it's so emotional. There's nothing rational. It's, yes, people don't want to overpay, let's say, but it's not like commercial in the least.
Got it. So let's flip to the buyer side that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what you're referring to. Someone will walk in there and it will immediately resonate or not.
Yes.
Right. So what does that look like? So, who is typically the buyer kind of profile? And for those listening, maybe that's something that they can see some of those qualities in them too. Is like, oh yeah, that kind of fits for who I am as well.
So the first thing we'll ask a buyer, do you have, it does is, do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Like, are schools important to you? What kind of a neighborhood do you want? So you narrow down the neighborhood pretty easily, kind of by price. If they tell me what price range, then I'll tell them which neighborhoods, and obviously the higher price, the better the neighborhood. So it's really easy. It's not a huge area, so it's pretty easy to rule out the neighborhoods or the areas. And then so we have to get them pre-approved so they know what they can afford. So we're looking at something reasonable. And I always try to explain to them, people like that restoration hardware look. They want to walk in and be wowed, but it's, the home will typically be staged and presented properly, but they might get so picky. And I find the younger buyer, as now the younger buyers coming in, and that mentality is they don't want to do anything, whether they don't have the time or the knowledge. And so when we walk into a house, and I think it's a good house for them, I mean, a lot of times you just let them do what they want, and, they have to love it to want to make an offer. So I don't really push, but I will offer, you might not like the counters, but that's just a couple $1,000s. The cabinets are good. I have someone who can change the counters. It's not a big deal. Even if it's electrical, it's not that big of a deal, and it's not intrusive. Mm-hmm. So I try to explain, like, it's because years ago when I first started, I'm like, buyers just think that to change the electrical panel is such a big deal. So I'd always get a bid and say, it's not $20,000, it's $2,000 or whatever it was back then. So the more you can educate your buyers, and newer agents aren't going to know all that. But now, like, I walked into the house and I said, that fireplace is leaning over. And she says, this is why I have you here talking to me. And then I felt the sloping in the floor. So as an agent, who's been doing this a while, you're walking in and you see things that the average, she's like, oh my God, how'd you see that? And I'm like, oh, I see a lot. You're looking for cracks, right? You're looking for cracks and stuff to see if, anyway, so we try to educate the buyer to understand what's a big deal and not. I'm not going to buyers that we work with, we're not going to sell, we're not going to encourage them to buy a house that's such a fixer that the foundation needs work. Yes, they're fixer people for that. That is not the buyer we work with. We want to make sure that, the house is sound. And yes, if there's some cosmetic stuff, we can tell them we have people who can do that and we can guide them and stuff. And we tell them, call us long after it's closed so we can help and guide you. But we're there to make sure we want to, we facilitate, we don't sell. We facilitate the transaction. They have to want it. And if they do, a lot of times there's multiple offers. And so we'll work with them to get that and tell them what they need to do to get that. And then when they go into contract, we just, make sure they understand the whole process. And then if there's, a checklist of things they want to do, we'll go through that with them. And I call it I have a seminar called Demystifying the Downsizing Process, but we kind of do the demystifying.
What does that mean?
For the buyer? Demystifying the downsizing process is homeowners, especially that have been in homes for a long time and they're have their belongings, they've had in their house for, 40, 50 years, and they just don't even know where to begin. So the whole seminar talks about, first of all, we handle everything. We'll, find the person to help. We have people who help with purging and packing and donating and all of that sort of thing. Because all they do is they're in this huge house with all kinds of stuff and they don't know where to begin. Sure. And then we talk about what we might do to prepare the house and helping them to find a place where they're going, identify that. We get the reports, we get the bids for the work to be done, but we guide them. And this is all the stuff we're going to do, but we do it all. They have to let go of their stuff, but we will do the whole thing. So we go through a seminar explaining the whole downsizing process.
Is that for the seller who's moving out?
That one's for the seller. But as I was talking about the buyer, we also try to demystify what a roof cost and how many days, what, a kitchen or a bathroom. Is that a big deal or not? Because a lot of times people, and especially today, right now, people want turnkey. So the other day I was talking to another seller and I told her she needs to update her kitchen. She's like, well, what if I give a credit? And I said, a couple of days later, I woke up at 3 a.m. and I said, you know what? You've got to do the kitchen. I said, people are going to discard your house because they're going to think it's so much work. And I know that it's not going to take that long or that much money for us it's a small kitchen and I have the right person for it to do it. I said, people are just going to discount your house and they're going to put it in the fixer category. Yep. And you're just going to lose eyes on your house. Definitely. And you're not going to get your price. So people don't have the time, the wherewithal, if they have young kids, or they're young, they're coming in and they have no idea. They're just buying a house. Now they have to remodel the kitchen and bathrooms. So you have to take off, things off the list that deter them from buying a home.
Definitely. I agree. So on that note, the buying process, like you said, you were talking about is making sure someone gets pre-approved, obviously.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So that it's the question I know is how much house can we afford? Right.
Yeah. They need to know.
and kind of going to what the different school districts are as well, and getting finding that right place for how much house can you afford, how much of you have children or not to get to the right districts as well. And then other things, is it something that you really ask the buyers of how much are they even interested in doing minor modifications? Or do you know that the buyer profile is so much no, this is out. We just want it to be done.
No. I say, are you willing to do some cosmetic improvements? I'm not going to, I don't think you're the right. I don't think you want to take on, a project that's going to be a couple $100,000 to do foundation work. And so they're usually amenable. But like everyone else, you walk into the store and people gravitate towards the same thing. They walk into a house and it's usually okay, that house just had 7 offers and that house didn't even have any offers. It's people, they kind of gravitate towards the same. So you have to be the house that you put on properly so you get more eyes on that product.
Got it. So in other words, do you have what percentage, if any, would you say that there are people who are interested in doing any types of improvements, non-cosmetic work?
Well, so the people that I work with are all people who they'll do some work. I mean, they may embark on a kitchen remodel or a bathroom, but I also have 20,000 text messages every day from fixer people. I mean, our phones are blowing off the hook. Do you have any projects? Do you have any projects? Do you have a fixer? Da, da, da. You know, it's like, and then the problem with that is they want to sell it so low. They want to buy it so low.
Totally.
And you know, so I have one right now we're in escrow on, and I showed it to someone. I gave him an opportunity to buy it before. She would have sold it for less because she wouldn't have had to put in the money we put into the house.
Yep.
He didn't really get it, and that's fine. And so we did the work. My contractor said, I'll get paid in escrow, and we put it on the market. And within one day, we didn't get to the staging because she didn't want to do that, which was fine. But we did all the light fixtures, the paint, brand new hardwood floors. It took out all the draperies. You know, it went from very dark. I didn't even take before photos because I felt bad. It was so bad. And so I was so bummed now I couldn't, but I couldn't walk in the house. I was in it once before because there was so much smoke. I couldn't breathe. And so it's, I'm praying that someone took photos because it's so different. And now I was sitting there on Sunday at the open house going, I can't even believe it. And I do this all the time. So we ended up getting 3 offers in 24 hours, and it went way above the price he could have gotten it for, but he couldn't really see that potential. And again, people who do fixers, they need to make a certain amount to make it worth their while, et cetera, as you know. But so now actually it was so fun to make such a big transformation. And then it's a neighbor, I was referred to them in a different neighborhood that I don't usually work. My mom said, how'd you get that listing? And I'm like, well, my neighbor referred me to her friend. And, and the prices are kind of average there. $750 to $850 is kind of low. And I thought there's probably some people that are hurting now with this economy that could use some help, like my client. And I feel so good to get her out of this and get her some money so she can move on, because she had 2 deaths in her family and she just it was terrible. So now she's going to get out and get some money. So it makes me feel good to help her. So we pulled up a notice of default on a property. And so just before this podcast, my son and I sent out a letter, this is what we just did. You don't have to put any money into it. You'll pay at close of escrow. If you need help, if you want it, we'd love to help you.
Yeah.
Because they're sitting there going, I don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah. Do you find, or do you think that you'll do more of that? And does that, if so, does that end up changing maybe part of the strategy, the way that you'll do business?
It's so interesting because it's happening. My whole thing in life is pivot and adjust. So because I got into that and was able to help someone, I was like, wow, there's probably so many more people. So I'm an emotional person. I would never do commercial because I'm emotional, not unemotional. I don't mean to say that in a mean way. It's just that I'm too emotional. So I lead from the heart. I do everything from the heart. That's how I've done everything. And intuition. And so because I had that, I'm having this experience of helping someone who is in a situation I've never really seen, I feel really good about it. So now instead of when the fixer people are, sending me these text messages, we want to do another flip, we want to do another project. And to me, it's like, I don't know. It's like they want to get it at the bottom price and, and it just feels a little different. And so now that I help this person, I'm going to pull notice of default and offer my service to them. And we'll see how it goes. But I mean, I can do it and I can help people, and my people are willing to have them pay an escrow, that if I can give someone a better life because, they got into this circumstance, it would make me feel really good. So I think I will. We just reached out to a fixer person who really wants our business. And so I said, you said you had a list, send it over. And Chase, my son, who's also one of our teammates, I said, he'll start calling and we'll send letters. And if we can help some people out, it'd feel really good. But when people call me for fixers, typically, I don't have them because that's not the market. It's not the pool I swim in. So I don't know where those fixers are. And there's so many people that do it. There's, I was researching, I always need to know who's the root source. So this person made an offer on a property in Oakland that we have. That's a horrible situation. The family members not agreeing, and it's a bad situation. And so this guy out of North Carolina, but when, he's like, well, we're going to make an offer. I said, no, you have to take the tenant. Anyway, I got to know them, and they're like, we really want to work with you. And, but like fixer people, they just want in and out. But we developed a relationship. And then I found out that even though he's in North Carolina as a partner, another piece of the action, someone's in San Francisco, but the main guy is in Orange County. And it's just this whole tier thing. So there are professionals who just do this day in and day out. So that's not who I am. I don't, yes, I would love to find them a project that you'd get for so low. But I don't know those people are going to let something go that far down.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely flipping businesses. There's wholesaling businesses. There's business for everything, most definitely. I do want to go into something you talked about of your whole life has been sort of pivoting into different things. One of the things I thought was really cool is launching a real estate firm during recession. And this was not the latest recession,
right.
but
it was 2009, 28, 29. Yeah.
And so, talk to me a little bit about that, because, how do you, the question is, life has been pivots. How do you know when to pivot? What are some of the things? And I'm going to stop there. How do you know? What are some of the things you feel or signals or anything like that when you know that you should pivot?
Well, someone wrote an article once in Unique Home magazines about me, and I told them my story, and this was a while ago, and I've had many more pivots and adjusts and things that have happened over the years since that article, but they named it Accidentally with Purpose. And it couldn't have been more true. The things I've stepped into by accident ended up being really great things. So when Adam, Heidi, and I go back to think, what were we thinking in 2009 launching a real estate company? People were like, do you know it's a recession? And we're like, well, we wouldn't have the opportunity if it wasn't. And we told our former broker, we said, well, if it doesn't work out, we'll come back. But, we have this opportunity. We didn't know what we didn't know. I mean, we literally jumped in, and I was reluctant, but we jumped in and we just started paddling. And so, what was different? Social media we had email, social media, text messaging. When email came out, I was like, why do people want to email? I want to talk to people. So I was really reluctant to do email for the longest time. Text messaging was by accident. Brooke, a young client who I was working with, long after the deal, I found something on my phone that was a text message that I never knew she had sent me because I didn't even know what a text message was. Nice. I mean, and then, so when we were starting Highland Partners, I said, we're not going to put billboards and we're not going to do print ads. It's social media. We've got to learn. We've got to embrace this thing called social media. We need to get out there. We need to use email. We have to try all avenues. And I was very clear that I had to do the marketing and run the marketing because I wanted it to be, Nike and Coca-Cola have a brand, right?
Sure.
It had to be branded a certain way. You can't capitalize Highland Partners one day and then it's lowercase and uppercase.
Totally.
It has to be what it is. And I was very emphatic about that. So we started doing everything. Well, it took us a while to get the office ready and designed. And we would every day, we would work out and across the street from the office that we were remodeling in Piedmont. I had a friend's son who had been in the military and he was back and he wasn't really doing anything. I said, why don't you come train us? So we had a military sniper guy. Nice. He was coaching us, and my mom even came out, and we just started working out, and people would see us running through town. So we really started this thing, this community, and people were just kind of aware. And then we started something called Workshop Wednesday, where we would have people come in to the office once it was built. We'd have someone speak and someone would bring lunch. And then we started just getting people to come through our doors. Like we'd invite the community to Workshop Wednesday. We put it up on Facebook. We started doing that. Then I worked with someone on social media, tell me what this is, how do I use it? And so started really, and then lo and behold, I was like, how am I going to keep our business that we've had over here? And then we did even better. So it's again, accidentally with purpose. We had an opportunity. We seized the moment. We didn't know. We had no idea. it was going to happen. We didn't know it would be successful.
Yeah.
And now, during COVID, we merged with Corcoran. And now we're part of 29 offices. And my husband's the broker of our 2 offices. I'm the marketing director. And then we all sell. I mean, our team sells as well. But you just have to look for opportunities, look for an opening, and jump.
You have to be paying attention, it sounds like. And I think the thing that I think is always so important is, you have to be paying attention to what's working, meaning what people are gravitating to, like you're talking about buyers stepping into someplace. But that also is like, well, how are people responding, right? How are people responding? Do they want to come to this thing on Wednesdays?
Right.
Do they want to do whatever else is coming up? And, how it's kind of like that question of how do you continue to serve the people in your community or serve the people? And was that kind of the focus? It's like, how do we just keep giving more?
Yes, absolutely. And giving back we had a huge thing we were doing give back homes and Habitat for Humanity. And we were doing a Soul Cycle to raise money. So we do, pay for Soul Cycle, and the money would go towards our money to give back homes. So we can they partner with Habitat for Humanity. So we were always involved, and charity work is just a part of who I am. So we brought that in. I wrote the thing I wrote. I've never met a charity or a cause I didn't want to help. It's just my thing. But, and then we would have 4th of July, the parade would come past our office. So we would do the coffee cart and, bagels, and have people come, and photos and candy for the kids. And then Santa, breakfast with Santa, so just constantly building community. It's hard though. So as an owner of a company and a partner in a company, trying to get the other agents behind it, because it's their clients, you can invite your clients as well. We help you help yourself and your business, but a lot of times people don't participate, and it's hard. So that's a whole other side of the business. Specifically
on wanting to help build a community. Is that how you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like we as the company pays for the event to happen, and we're there because we have to be there. It's our company as well. But we also, this is a benefit that we're giving our agents for them to invite their clients to a party, or, basically we're paying and we're giving you a marketing platform. You should do it. So it's sometimes a little disappointing when people don't get that. And so that goes into my coaching hat when I'm coaching people. And I was on a podcast interviewing someone on my podcast, Mastering the Art of Real Estate. And I said, it's frustrating to me sometimes because you give, after 35 years, a lot, a little bit about something, and you've done it. And I'm constantly recreating. I'm never stopping. And so I put my heart and soul into the coaching, and I'm like, what does it take to get someone to want to, do the work? You can't make them do the work. So I kind of have to be like, I can give you the information, but they have to implement if they want.
What is the best answers that you have found to that question so far? The question being, it's how do you motivate someone to want to do a thing? In this case, the context was, to be and want to help grow community in that space. What answers have you received about that? Or maybe even any personal anecdotes or coaching things?
Yes. So specifically, I learned something yesterday. So this Dr. Al, who I interviewed the other day, he coaches SWAT teams, police, real estate teams, and we took the culture index test, and it was so fun. And Adam, my husband's, was right on, mine was right on. I was the persuader. And then we have 2 new gals who are on our team, Nicole and Sydney. And so, oh my God, it was right on. Sydney is definitely a taskmaster, and Nicole's a little bit like that. And so I told him, I said, they're, newer into the business. So, they are more tasked, but I said that. And so Nicole said, I don't know what to do. And then he was explaining, it's good for these types of people to give them a list or give them tasks. So what did I do at 3 a.m? I sent them tasks. And then I said, and Nicole's like, that is super helpful. Thank you. Like, you forget, because after doing this for so long, we're always working to improve, and we kind of know a little bit how to do it. And so when someone doesn't know, and it was so cool when she said that was helpful, I'm like, oh my God, there's more of where that came from. So it's really about finding a lot more. I said, no. So yeah, she's going to be like, oh gosh. I said, no. Then I said, please put that whole list onto our Google coaching. So it's not just in this email that's going to go into the abyss. Put it there so you can refer back to those things. So it's there. And as it grows, at least you're stumped one day and you don't know what to do and you need a refresh. It's there. Go back to it. I'm not good with excuses at all. I hate them. Mm-hmm. No is not an option. And you really don't care. If someone asks you a question and you say you don't know, that means you don't care. That's what I think. You can find the answer. We're here there's so many people who can give you the answer. Say, let me get back to you. Let me get back to you.
Let me get back to you. But I mean, to that is, I think like, I don't know, full stop versus I don't know right now. Let me go find out. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't even have to say you don't know. Let me get back to you with the right,
Totally.
So
better than making up some nonsense on the spot. But definitely. Yeah. But I get the sentiment, certainly. It seems like one of the takeaways there, and you're talking about the culture index, which I just pulled up here too. Pretty cool. There's so many of these things. I love, the Colby index stuff and strengths finders and those kinds of things. But culture being a big part of it. This one it sounds like with the task list, like you were talking about, is communicate to them that they want to be communicated to and how they resonate with it. Yeah. Right.
I'm going to ask him now I'm coaching someone in Texas, in Austin, actually. I'm coaching someone in Austin, Texas right now. And I'm going to ask Dr. Al if he could do the test for her, because I'm finding that she'll be like, I know, but she's not doing. So are you going to do, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And I'm like, okay. So I need to know. I didn't know that there, I didn't know about that test and what you can learn from it. So I'm going to say, can she take that test and can we review it together so I can be better prepared to work with her, whatever it is she's looking for.
The way that she needs to hear it.
The way she needs to hear it. Yeah. Yeah. And exactly.
Cool. Couple other wrap-up questions for you. You never met a charity foundation that you didn't want to help. Yeah. Now I like that. Fun one that reminds me of, the girl in my life. And, one of the things that you told me about is UCSF, Benioff Children's Hospital, Oakland, that you raise money for, that you contribute to. How did you pick this one as to one to give back to?
Yeah, so it was called Children's Hospital, local charity here in Oakland, where we live in Piedmont, Oakland, East Bay. And so I was part of that as just Children's Hospital. And it's merged with UCSF, Benioff Children's Hospital, Oakland. Now it's much bigger. But it started as it was our Hill branch, our local branch. And it was for years, all my life, it was the debutante ball, the winter ball, we called it. And it was a fun tradition of, when I made my daughter do it, it was, we changed the way, it wasn't a coming out party. We tried to change the narrative. Instead of a coming out, which was the old term, it was like, we're honoring you. You've worked so hard, whether you excelled in a sport or a music or school, or, you went through college, you went through high school, you got into college, where it's a family affair over the holidays. It's, 6 months or a couple months after they've just gone to college, and it's a fun event for the whole family. And, but we've just had such, so we explained to the kids, because our kids here in our community do a lot of charity work. National Charity League is a mother-daughter organization. So they get charity here in our area. So this is just a bigger extension of that. So it's a fundraiser. It's not about finding a husband. So anyway, she did it. Loved it. It was fun. People enjoyed it, but it's been really hard to get. That's the old days it was. But now we've just had a hard time getting young women to do it. So now we've been having just another big gala fundraiser we've done around Valentine's Day. And so on the committee to do this big charity. And then we go to the hospital we've gone to the hospital to learn what they need. And they need certain types of machines that cost so much money. Yeah. The neonatal care. And, and then you meet the doctors that are saving lives. And, what doesn't tug at your heartstrings when, so yeah. And also in that same vein, I have, if I have an idea, I have to dive into it. So I've written 4 books and I'm on my 5th book, because if I have an idea, I've got to get it out there.
Yeah, you like the homework aspect, you said. So how do you take the ideas, meet with this concept and turn that into books?
Yeah. So one time I did it with skincare. I was just like, why am I paying $500 for this skincare? Not everyone is making it somewhere, in France or wherever. And so I found a company in Southern California that they do private label. These spas don't all manufacture. So I dug deep and so I created a white label skincare line, which I love. And people are like, what do you use on your skin? When I go to get my facials done, they're like, what do you use on your skin? I said, my skincare. I mean, so it could be something like that. But then I get bored. I don't like to do the selling part. Like with real estate, we don't touch money. It goes to the title company. We get paid. Yeah. So there's no interaction with money. But with skincare, so many little pieces, and that's just too much minutia for me.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So, and then my first book, Contained Beauty, was photographs, reflections in swimming pools, and there's a whole story how that came to be and why, because of the empty nest. And then a couple real estate books, and now my newest, and then one called Beauty at Any Age, and now the one coming up, Mindset in Motion.
Super cool.
Unlocking your true potential for life transformation.
Got it. What was, we don't have to get into that here, but what was the catalyst? Why did you choose to write that one?
Interesting. So I was sitting home one Sunday afternoon when my husband said, I'll do the open house. And I said, all right, well, nothing's good when I have any idle time. So I ended up deciding, I saw on Instagram something about a TED Talk, and I'm like, that sounds interesting. So I went down a rabbit hole. I bought the program. And as I was, and of course, if I do something, I have to do it now, and I'm not waiting. So I'm answering all the questions. I'm going through the whole thing. And then as I was trying to fine tune what my 15 minutes was going to be about, I started writing about all the different things. And I was like, I can write about the empty nest, but I'm kind of tired of it because I'm finally over that. My kids have now been out and back, and, I'm good. But it took me, when they graduated from high school, I was devastated. And so I went through this whole empty nest. So I have blogs and everything about how I survived that. And then I was like, no, but I love the coaching. I like the mindset. I like you can do anything. I literally ran the LA Marathon with 0 training, only mindset, 0 training. My son inspired me. And then because he inspired me, because he was going to go into the military, which we have no military background. And I didn't understand what that meant to challenge myself. And so then I immersed myself into everything on YouTube and all books on military. And I became an expert. And cool. I stumbled upon, didn't know who this was. I stumbled upon it. And now I realize he's huge, but I had no idea. David Goggins.
Of course. And I was going to say.
But I didn't even know. So when I told my family, they're like, of course. And I'm like, I was just digging for books on Audible. And so I went deep. I go, I'm going Navy SEAL because he's not doing that. So I'm going to go as hard as I could be to understand how someone goes into the military. And I have vivid imagination as his life going through what he did. And I said, if he can do that, I can certainly run a damn marathon. And so I did. I did not tell anyone and I didn't tell my husband till right before I said, you got to come with me to LA because I don't know. By the way, I'm running a marathon and I don't know how I'm going to be. So you have to come to LA. I have a place in LA. And I said, you got to come with me on this trip because I don't know what these, but he knows. I mean, my nickname is Droid. So so I did it. And, of course, my family believed me as I was on the bus to get to be dropped off, and I was sitting next to this young guy, and he had come up from Berkeley. His girlfriend and him had come down. And I'm like, please don't ask me any questions. I'm almost to the line. I don't want anyone to ask me about my training. Right. I was like, and so I'm asking him questions. He's like, well, I ran across the San Mateo Bridge this day, and I did this day. And I'm like, please just get me to the starting line. I can't share my story. People will say you're crazy. And then after I did it, I went on YouTube and I watched someone for 5 minutes, and I'm like, holy shit, I would have never, ever, ever done it because the amount of training these people do and the eating and this and that. I will say I had 2 glasses of wine the night before and my chicken Caesar salad, and that's
and good to go.
I will say my upper legs were very sore. They were screaming when I got and when I ended, but I was okay.
You crushed it. That's cool. Yeah, David Goggins definitely is a one. I love the nickname Groid. I look forward to. It'd be cool to have you on in, I don't know, 6 months or
yes,
to see if the that, as well as the book coming out, as well as just how things, any additional pivots, looking back, what else has changed, and get focusing on a different timeline here. But
absolutely, I'd love
Debbie,
to.
I've kept you a little longer here than I think I committed to, so I super appreciate it. Talk to me, talk to the listeners. Where should they go find you, and what types of conversations would you love to have with whoever reaches out to you?
Awesome. Well, DebbiDiMaggio.com, no E in Debbie, DebbiDiMaggio.com, pretty much there. Any social media with that name as well. I'm always happy to have a conversation with anyone who's interested in coaching, just a complimentary conversation. Could be any goal. I've never met a goal or someone's goal that I wasn't able to help or guide. I've had people move from San Francisco to LA within a week because I set their whole plan up. If you ask me, I will guide you. So anything about that, real estate, of course, buying, selling. And if you want to buy anywhere in pretty much the world these days, I'm pretty connected with real estate agents everywhere. And for my podcast, I love to interview interesting people. I've interviewed someone who reached out to me from India and Australia. So I love to connect with people around the world. And that was actually one of the things that I forgot on that 25-year-old list was travel. I love traveling. Well, I said meeting people from all different cultures, but travel is a really big. So it's fun when you're talking to people from different parts of the world. You're virtually traveling.
Absolutely. I had a ton of fun, Debbie. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you so much.
Awesome. Till next time.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Path to Passive. We love connecting with our listeners and those on the path to architecting their wealth and improving their lives. Feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see in future episodes. Get in touch with us through email or Instagram. See you next week for a new episode.